Today we're going to be taking a look at this RTX 2080 Super that I picked up for $180. And we're going to find out just how well it holds up in 1440p in 2026. This GPU released in 2019 at an MSRP of $699. And now, today, we're able to pick it up for a measly $180. At this price point, it's really starting to look like a pretty great budget option, especially with RAM prices and PC parts starting to get a little bit better. For instance, you can get this awesome little Xeon kit from AliExpress for $129. That's 16 gigs of RAM, a 14-core CPU, and a motherboard included. All in all, this machine would cost you about $310. Say you chuck in another $50 for a power supply, and you've got an under $400 1440p gaming beast. Or you can purchase a pre-built computer and slap in a low-profile GPU. It may not be as powerful, but you do have a little bit more of an upgrade path compared to this. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see me purchase one of these AliExpress Intel Xeon motherboards. I've done one in the past with a little bit cheaper prices, but I still think at even $100 that this is a pretty good deal. So now let's go ahead and take a look at today's test bench and then get straight into the benchmarks. And for the motherboard and CPU that we're using this awesome little Minisforum combo, which comes with the AMD Ryzen 9 7945HX, which has 16 cores, 32 threads, and is running on the Zen 4 architecture. It has a base clock of 2.5 GHz and boosts all the way up to 5.4 GHz. It also features 64 MB of L3 cache. This will be plenty of CPU for our graphics card. And for the RAM, we have two 48 gig sticks of DDR5 running at 5600 megatransfers. And just like the CPU, we are totally fine when it comes to the memory department. We should see no bottlenecks for that. Now, for the GPU, again, we're running the RTX 2080 Super. And this variant of the RTX 2080 Super is the Lenovo ThinkStation one. It features 3072 CUDA cores, 48 ray tracing cores, 384 tensor cores, and has a base clock of 1650 MHz with a boost all the way up to 1815. It also packs 8 gigs of GDDR6 VRAM. It's crazy to me that there are people out there who are willing to pay over $200 for an RTX 3060 Ti or even the RTX 3060. While the 3060 does have more VRAM, it definitely can't use it in a lot of scenarios. I think that explosive price in the RTX 3060 doesn't come from your average gamer, it comes more from the local AI users. So now let's go ahead and jump straight in to the benchmarks and see just how well this GPU holds up in 2026 and if it's worth picking up. The first game we're going to be taking a look at is Fatekeeper running at 1440p on the Ultra preset, and this game just looks absolutely amazing, and it runs super great on this older graphics card. I don't really know the whole plot of this game or even if it's a fun game to play, but looks wise it's one of the prettiest games to look at, and we ended up after testing at an average of 40 FPS. It did get a little bit harder to run once we get into more of the densely populated areas. Even taking that into account, we were still seeing an average above 40 FPS. So if you're wanting to play Fatekeeper on this GPU, you totally can, especially at 1080p and 1440p. Next up, we've got Forza Horizon 6 running on the high ray tracing preset, and at 1440p we were seeing an average of 43 FPS. And for me, a more casual gamer, an above 30 FPS experience is great for me, and it still looks amazing. Here it is at 1440p. The ray tracing looks great, the textures look even better. Forza Horizon 6 can just run on pretty much anything. And if you're wanting to run Forza Horizon 6, you can totally run it at 4K with extreme settings or 1440p with some of the nicer ray tracing enabled. Next up, we've got a game that is actually harder to run than the last two games shown. We have the latest LEGO Batman running at 1440p on the Epic preset. And yes, you did hear that right. Unfortunately, we're only getting an average of 31 FPS. And the frame time on this wasn't super great too. In a lot of the parts, we did have quite a bit of stuttering. Now yes, you can definitely turn down the settings and get a much more playable experience. But we're really wanting to test and push the limits of this graphics graphics card. And if you're wanting to play this game at more of a console experience and have the really nice graphics of playing it on PC, this is definitely a good preset to set. Would you guys keep it at this preset, or would you lower the graphics and get more FPS? Here we have Mortal Kombat 1 running at the ultra high preset and ray tracing set to high. We finished this benchmark off with an average of 53 FPS. And one of my awesome subscribers told me down in the comment sections that for fighter games you're going to want to target 60 FPS. So if you're playing this and you want that more competitive edge, definitely go ahead and drop the settings down quite a bit. For a casual though like me, this game looks great and feels great. Here we have Cyberpunk 2077 running on the ray tracing medium preset, once again running at 1440p. Now we did end up getting an average of 51 FPS. When you're actually playing in-game, you're going to see more like 40 to 45 FPS. And for this game having came out, 5 years ago now, this game holds up very well and really stresses the GPU. If you're wanting to play Cyberpunk 2077 at 1440p and need a graphics card under $200, this thing is going to absolutely kill it. Now taking a look at Arc Raiders, we're running this at the cinematic preset with ray tracing at low. And here we got an average of 35 FPS, which is totally playable as long as you're not trying to compete with a lot of the other better players. 30 FPS is still pretty playable, but again, we're just testing this GPU and really pushing it to its limits here. And the temps too, in all of our tests have been great. We haven't seen it really reach over 75 degrees Celsius, so the cooling on this little Lenovo RTX 2080 Super works very well. Now to really push some of the ray tracing, we have Half-Life 2 RTX version, and this is going to be running again at 1440p. And as far as I'm aware, there's only one graphical setting for this. You just boot it up and it is what it is, but it looked very good and the ray tracing was very high quality as well. Now we did end up with an average of 55 FPS, and that has to do in part to all of this flames that you can see. It was very hard to run, and this scene especially was brutal on the graphics card. Now this is only a demo, but man, it still looks pretty great, and I'd love to see a full Half-Life 2 RTX version. For BeamNG, we're running this at Ultra, again at 1440p, and we're seeing well above 60 FPS, with an average of 70 FPS. So if you're wanting to play BeamNG, you totally can. You could probably even get away with playing this at 4K on high if you'd want. It is quite a bummer that this GPU didn't come with, say, 10 gigs of VRAM. That way you could totally play a lot more of these games at 4K. However, we're sitting at about 4.5 gigs here, running it at 1440p. And for me, 1440p is a sweet spot. It looks super great, and a lot of the monitors are pretty cheap in comparison to 4K. And yeah, to nobody's surprise, BeamNG runs great on this graphics card. Now, one of my favorite titles that I love to test is going to be Mount & Blade Bannerlord 2, which we have at the highest settings possible, at 1440p of course. And we ended up seeing an average of 112 FPS, which is very nice, and I imagine as you get into the late game of Mount & Blade Bannerlord 2, you're still going to be sitting well above 60 FPS, even with a ton of sieges, battles, and things going on the screen. Now, last but not least, one of my favorite titles to test that really pushed the graphics card is going to be Arma Reforger, which again, we're running at 1440p on the Ultra preset. And this game looks pretty amazing, even at the lower presets, but man, does this game just look so good at Ultra. And we saw an average of 35 FPS, and this includes a bunch of explosions and a lot of firefights going on the screen. And an above 30 FPS experience for me is going to be totally playable, especially if I'm just using it in a single player experience. Now that leads me right into my conclusion for this video. This GPU is great for running AAA titles at 1440p, around 30 FPS, or 1080p 60 FPS. So it really allows you to pick and choose what kind of experience you want to have while you're playing on your gaming PC, which is one of the greatest benefits of having a gaming PC, is getting to choose the settings and the FPS that you are most comfortable with. Now, the alternative to this is the RX 5700 XT, which sits around like the $140 to $150 price range, but it doesn't come with a lot of the great NVIDIA features, nor does it have the same rasterization performance. And I have seen the RTX 2080 Super go as low as 160, and that's unfortunately after I bought this at 180. But I'm curious to hear your guys' opinion on this GPU, and if you have any other alternatives to it. Again, make sure and let me know down below if you want to see me buy that AliExpress board. I have one on hand, but I'd like to buy one just to show how good it is at $120. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. I really hope you enjoyed it just as much as I enjoy making them. And if you like these kind of videos looking over cheap tech, go ahead and check out the card in the middle of your screen. I'm sure it's an awesome video from me. So thank you all again, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.